today. I don't know who was selling it, who was speculating on it, but it kind of really stands out quite a bit. Let's go into next week and see what we got. Quite a lot of movement picking up on that 5 and that 550. So RXRX, which we've been talking
Whoa,
about.
look at the 7. Sorry,
Whoa,
look at the 7.
here comes the voice, everybody. 29,000 on the, yeah, but this is probably all old. So it's a miracle just coming down from the sky. Volume at 1148 on that 7 for next Friday. And things picked up a little bit yesterday, but people are watching. I guess we've got Oz here. New feature, new morning feature here at TheoTrade. All right. We'll talk about momentum. We'll talk about the runner. And then we're going to change this. We'll find out. Could be anything. We'll figure that out. That was the voice of God. The voice of God has a hard Baltimore accent and says down the ocean. Going down the ocean? Oh, yeah, hon. Oh, we could just do that Baltimore accent all day. Talk about Manny Machado. What you get today, hon? The stocks that are actually worth engaging and trading today. Again, 9:30. We got a big week coming up into next week. We have this Federal Reserve meeting Tuesday and Wednesday, and then obviously triple witching. Can't say quad witching. Can't get in trouble. Good morning, Rosario. Good morning, Hashpipe. Good morning. What movie we're talking about? Oh, the Oz movie. Okay. Top screens and trades of the day. We'll dig into that momentarily. Right now, momentum remaining the same where we left it off. And again, it's all at the top part of the S&P 500. You're looking at the 20, the 8, and the 50-day moving averages. I've taken the 200 off just to showcase that short-term momentum, 8-day momentum. A lot of strength just remains the same. And we got to go from there. That said, we continue to see this moving higher, 858 at the moment. And this is just the SPY breaking higher. It's all here, right? Magnificent Seven, leveraging the system, Apple, Amazon, Broadcom, Microsoft, NVIDIA, etc. So we continue to see that strength, but we're also seeing it in the Russell as well. And the Russell remaining very strong as well. The thing about this is, I wrote about it this morning very briefly. There's articles all across the interwebs, right? And it's very funny to me to see certain headlines. And there's the spinning wheel of death that we all know and love. So what do we see here? Well, we see a couple of different things. You see things like gold, right? Lifting gold target for the 5th time this year. These strategists are now eyeing 3,800. There was an article on small cap stocks basically stating, oh my gosh, small cap stocks are going up. They're going up because of interest rate cuts. And I keep just stressing this. Yeah, that all matters, but there's no rotation. This is just clear exploitation of liquidity globally. Money continues to just get printed. And this goes back to the argument that we were making last year in what we called the hedge of tomorrow, where we were simply stating, listen, if they're going to engage in an expansion of monetary policy, and they have 170 trillion last January 2024 to now 184.8 trillion, 8% move, huge move, right? In terms of just capital sloshing around the system, everything goes up. It all goes up. Money has to go somewhere. It finds itself into these zombie stocks that have floating rates. And the Russell continues to charge higher. And they basically, equity analysts saying, well, the market can continue to run until next year. They're putting it together because, once again, as we've noted before, the liquidity cycle peaks or is expected to peak next year, right around election time. Now, on top of this, you have momentum positive, number of stocks breaking out versus the number of stocks breaking down. You can see positive minus negative equals 3. And now you have this green chart, everything green, everything nice, everything clean. Markets continue to move higher. And again, we will let you know when things are expected to go sideways. And there is a warning this morning. I will get to it in a moment, but I do want to point it out because it does warrant your time, because in previous events, as quarters end, we have seen this phenomenon happen a couple of times, and I'll show you an example of it in a moment. But obviously, the big news is the Fed rate cut. The expectation for a 50 basis point cut is not going any higher, right? But we would need this to move, get out of the way, and move back to removing some of that pricing, people betting on that 7.5% who are betting on a 50 basis point cut. What's really more important are the odds of the October rate cut going down to, so that would be a second cut. And as you head into December, you're seeing the market effectively pricing in a third, if not a fourth cut. The thing that's even wilder to look at is just the sheer amount of expectations. This is signaling a weak economy next year, or the elimination of Powell, and effectively the argument that we're just going to cut interest rates, not worry about inflation, try to get the job markets going again. And then what? Well, that's going to be the challenge. Hopefully, potentially refinancing government debt, trying to push some things out on the yield curve and trying to manage that debt. But it can be a very bumpy period. And if it doesn't work, if inflation returns and the job market doesn't get a strong recovery, that's where all of this is going to matter. That's October into November. That's when midterm elections come. So be very cautious and aware of the fact that the expectation remains the same. That's bullish for markets, but we could see some reversals for something I'll show you in a moment. Growth in tech names, financials, U.S. dollar crosses, watching all this, watching treasury yields, very important. Traders are pricing in that easing next Wednesday. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are near record highs. But again, I keep going back to the argument, global liquidity, global capital remains extraordinarily strong. Now, here's the issue, and this is what people have to really pay attention to understand that just because liquidity, capital globally is expanding on the aggregate, there are concerns about short-term borrowing rates being impacted soon. So Reuters this morning releasing a report saying a surge in U.S. bill issuance in recent months, again going back to the front end of the yield curve, reduced liquidity in the financial sector, raising concerns that funding markets could face a September squeeze, particularly money markets. And to give you a sense of what that looks like, we just go back to where we were in 2024 during this downturn right here. Short-term downturn that transpired in April. That was a kind of spasm, short-term spasm in the money markets because money was being extracted for the purposes of paying taxes after a huge run higher on the S&P 500 in 2023. The issue is you could see a squeeze in liquidity, a very short-term one, albeit one that does create a little bit of panic and uncertainty, and it can create what Reuters defined as ripple effects through the markets by reducing demand for assets and stocks and corporate bonds and pushing some investors to set cash on the side just in case volatility picks up. Now, some people have warned about the possibility of something being similar to 2019. We had a period like this back in 2019 where we had this very short duration period here on the backside of September where there was a big spike in short-term rates. And then what had to happen? The Federal Reserve stepping in to provide support in the overnight markets to alleviate a crunch. This is coming because of concerns just about QE quarter end due to technicals. Corporate taxes are coming up right now. And then you have individual taxes expansion into October, anybody who got an extension. So overnight funding costs in the repo market back in 2019 squeezed because there was a big drop in banking reserves as companies had to pay their taxes and they had to make payments for treasury debt, and that led to an injection. So if you do see a downturn at the macro level in the next 5 to 10 days, possibly into the end of the month and even into the first month or two of September, of November, or October. Woo, get a map. That's basically from the broader perspective of what is likely going to be happening. And then the expectation is that it would be a short-term liquidity squeeze, short-term liquidity crunch, and a possible retest of that 50-day moving average. And that's really the best way to get out in front of these potential pressures in the markets, particularly understanding that you hear the big things that are built around the banks, or you hear about trade or what's happening with the United States and China. We occasionally have these spasms, particularly because the Fed has been reducing its balance sheet over the last 3 years, which is drawing a lot of attention. And now the question is, what will this look like in the short term over the next couple of weeks as companies who extended their payment deadlines, and most do, I certainly do, in order to meet their obligations. So this is more of a macro tax issue, but watch money market funds, watch bank funding sensitive stocks, and watch these short duration ETFs. It's a possibility you see some little changes in things like the IEF. Finally, the ECB is held on its rates. They held rates steady, and this is surprising. We were expecting a rate cut because they had argued about their independence recently, and I believe Lagarde had even argued that the ECB should be the central bank of the world. But they emphasized data dependence, holding rates steady, inflationary issues. This was continued strength that they see, and I'm throwing tickers up in the defense and aerospace because, again, that's where the money's going. They are refinancing their economy. They are rebuilding their military capacity, and it remains a very strong trade in the defense and aerospace stocks. In addition, the automakers and the construction industrials also moving higher. European cyclicals and defensive stocks continue to gain momentum, while most U.S. investors are too busy focusing on the AI trade. All right, real quick before we take you into the runner. Let's see. AI will put a stop to that inflation. That's the argument, but we'll see. AI in corporate offices. Yeah. Yep. WBD. What was that? I caught it in a call spread. Don't know. All right. I'm not going to debate AI this morning. I'm going to get just right into the runner. All right. All right. I have it somewhere. It could be anywhere. CEG. So we've talked about this a lot, right? AI trade, AI backdoor trade, CEG pushing back above these key moving averages and looking for continued strength. Now, I'd like to see that RSI improving a bit, but histogram just rolled over. This is one of those names that you have a couple of different options when it comes to trading this. Again, I'm a little bit concerned, as I've noted, about the potential instability of the market in the next 10 to 15 days, next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, over the possibility of a little bit of a squeeze on that, on those money markets. That's where I'm looking for something that I want to own for the long term. CEG kind of fitting that narrative, in the fact that we know electricity remains, it's up 14%. Natural gas was up 14%. Electricity was up 6.7. So opportunity here, spread to the downside, and really focusing more on longer term emphasis, out into maybe November, out into December. We'll dig into this a little bit. I'll take a look at the options chain when the market opens up. But I would be looking to buy this stock rather than trying to speculate too much on it. Again, with stocks like Coinbase, which very heavily liquidity focused and very heavily driven by momentum, in this environment, you have to keep very tight stops because, again, if what I'm warning about in the money markets does occur, you could see that this has had problems in the past when there are banking events. That's 2023. If we go back to 2024, that's not it. That's not it. That is it. That April period, 279 took you down to 204. This is a stock that is going to make a directional move, it feels like. So what I'm looking for is something to the upside, short duration, trying to move back up to that 350, 360 level. But if this rolls back over it becomes a short very, very quickly, particularly if momentum in the broader market does turn negative or even goes yellow. AMD under some pressure. Interestingly to see this. This is a tough one to be lining up at the moment. But once again, big move up to 190 just transpired. What we want to do in this case is look at things like the Ghost Prince screener to get a sense of where are options, expectations, who's making what moves on stocks like this at any given moment. If we look at Market Chameleon right now, take a look at Delta volume. Bearish, 621,000. So downside risk and looking for stuff that's moved. Nobody's touching it on the insider side. A lot of selling. So downside potential here remains the same. Buying at the 158, selling at the 155, maybe 175, 155 level, looking for something relatively tight. And then keep in mind we're heading into next week. Markets do tend to have a little bit of a drift into Fed minutes. But AMD to the downside, yeah, keep a very tight stop though. Peloton breaking lower, same thing. Buying here, selling here, looking for a cheap trade that possibly can take us back under these 50-day moving average. But once again, this stock likes to push off this level. So you're kind of in no man's land here. I would wait directionally, see if we get this crossover on the 9 and the 8 and the 20, and then look to short. If we break under that 50, that's where you can be much more speculative on the week heading into next Friday. And then from that point, you're looking at the you're looking at buying the 750 or the $7 put and just trading it directionally without a spread. High beta remains the same, still strong, still strong. Things moving higher, things pushing to these new levels. Semiconductors, again, same thing. Semiconductors continuing to push higher, SOXL, bullish. This is why it's a little hard to bet against AMD when the SOXL continues to push back up to these key levels. These stocks are going to be the most in focus next week. And then, of course, the crypto names, which Bitcoin back at 114, Ethereum at 45.10, Solana up at 237. All of the stuff continues to show strength except for AVAX. But once again, proxy for semiconductors, proxy for AI, looking for continued movements higher there as well. Breaking out technology, communications, energy, and financials. We talked about the financials and the importance of the financials. Tech, and cyclicals. This is momentum in the market. These three. That is what, when you see these moving higher, that is bullish for the market. When all three together, right? There's a lot of higher beta there. There's a lot of optimism around consumer spending. There's a lot of optimism around consumer trends. Technology, cyclicals, looking at utilities continuing to climb, and again, money rotating out of defensives into tech and energy, as energy getting a little bit of a bid after a relatively weak week. Defensives are your weak spot, rotating to small caps and utilities. And then what are we looking at? Well, MOS, Mosaic, Potash, Potash. This is actually something that I find interesting. The only question is there an options chain worth a damn? And that's the challenge. We will not be at the bar today, by the way. There is a private party, and my daughter has to come home early from school, and I need to be here. So she will be maybe on the show with me. MOS breaking above. 133 for next week. Right to 35. Here's your break even. Takes you right to where we are. You need 11 cents. Looking to make bet 79 to make 121. 47% probability of profit on Mosaic, keeping an extremely tight stop on this one. And what do I mean by that? I mean 33.60. 33.60. 15 cents is all I'm giving you on this trade. If it breaks down, here's your loss, 5%, 5%, 6%. If it taps under that key moving average, there's your upside. So you know right up front where you're trading. Take small losses. I know it's tough. I know it's difficult. I know it's frustrating. I know sometimes it goes the other way, but you'd rather lose 5% 3 times and then have 140% winner and just keep your self-disciplined. Even if you hold this for the full week, the worst you could do is 25% loss if the stock remains above that 33 line. But Mosaic continuing to move higher, content there, and possible move, maybe retest of where we were in July, but weaker dollar. Farm inputs, we talked about this. Remember, the inputs are going up at the same time that the outputs are coming up. It's the money printing. And once again, the cure for higher commodity prices tends to be higher commodity prices, which means we will see more effort to try to get that under control. Lows, just pure momentum. Good line. Good, very good chart. Same thing. Stay in the money, sell out of the money, buy the stock, set a stop, sell spreads to the downside. You see this is retested that 50-day multiple times, not just here, but going back into 2025 down here. Good company. Sustain momentum. Stop if you buy the stock right here, 95.11. Good little rate play. Go from there. Newmont Mining, pure momentum. Breakout, stop at 76.50, buying the stock and trying to ride this momentum higher. All right. Cool. That was fantastic. All right. Thank you, Peter. I'm going to have a co-host. Who's doing it? I want to know. Bringing back Voz. Oh, my daughter. Yeah, she could do the afternoon. She has no idea what I'm talking about. She'll just say that. What are you doing? All right. Let's take a look at a couple of different things. So, option, screeners. Not a lot of companies on earnings today, but interesting little data set here. Adobe, Lennar, COST. I don't like this stuff. I don't like historical strategy, backtest results, current strategy, market theoretical values, all very fascinating. All right. Option profit calc. We'll go to TradingView, and we'll just go back to our original screens, right? So what are we doing here? Just a reminder. Well, you have 4 indicators that we're always looking at. I'm the only one who's up, right? Okay. RSI, relative strength index, price oscillator, strength of price, money flow index, price with volume, MACD short-term trend, ADX trend. Looking at these histograms, looking for these positive switchovers, black line above, red line, histogram positive. And you're looking for movements where these stocks all break out at the same time, particularly around key moving averages like the 20-day, 8-day, 50-day. Because as those moments arrive, again, you'll look back on some of this stuff in hindsight and go, oh, yeah, how'd I miss that? So what we do is we just build the list of the stocks. What's breaking above IBM, right? So IBM, which I don't think I've ever traded, just pushed pretty strongly above that 20-day. I feel like I missed this, obviously. But what's important about it is you can see, this is all recent. That's the entry point right there, 246. So give you a little bit of an assessment, just trying to understand we're going to have to tighten some of these RSI numbers. ARM, and you're just looking for companies that meet all the metrics, above 50, above 50 RSI MFI, pushing above those levels. And some of the stuff showing up a day, 2 days later, unfortunately. But it's a reminder that if you are looking for the names just as they hit that level, right, 48, 49, that's where you're presenting yourself with ample opportunity for a breakout. NRG, it just takes patience, and we'll get this down to a science better soon. But you're seeing the same thing, right? Break, 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 right? 150 up to 160 in 2 days. That's the goal here. So those are the stocks moving up. Then you have the breakdowns. T-Mobile. MGM. Don't know what any of these other ones are. But T-Mobile. T-Mus. Yeah, there's going to be some more weakness here. What a bad business. What a terrible business. Ugh. Get me out of here. All right, breakouts, breakdowns. And then number of stocks breaking out versus breaking down is 5. I have to update my account here. I will take care of that. Key filings, anything new? CEO, CFO, 10% owner. Risodio Summit Therapeutics. Crisp Momentum. Donegal Group, nothing really significant. People selling a lot of the news businesses. Interesting. $1 billion. There's some deal making there. Paying very close attention to Smithfield. Let's just look at everything, see if there's anything else. What is any of this stuff? Big move on Smithfield. We'll talk more about that next week. Hopefully you like methane. All right. Got 7 minutes left. Tickers, we'll do it. It's Friday. Why not? Summit. Ugh. I mean, the good news is it's oversold as can be. The bad news is I don't know what they're selling. Income, that is bad, bad. Price to book, bad. Everything about it is but not good. But from short, if you're a gambling person, look at market. Let me look at Market Chameleon real quick. IV ranks subdued. Bearish crossover. SMMT. I don't, again, I have no idea what they do. And if I don't know what they do and if I don't understand it, I take the Warren Buffett approach and I just go, I'm not doing that. But if there is an attractive options chain and you want to sell down at the 15, 14, 13 level, try to take advantage of what the market's going to give you, and there is an options chain for it, then yeah, that's not bad. Or you try to just ride short-term momentum. So right now on the trading view, we'll go to trading view real quick. Sorry, I know I'm jumping all over the place. There's your morning. There's not a lot of volume there. But the insider buying happened on the 10th. It was announced last night at 7:30. The market is reacting this morning. $5 million from the co-CEOs. It's a big buy. It's a big purchase. It's worth investigating. My analysis stops there, though. Okay. All right, I'm getting a lot of requests. LCRX, we got to go back to Lamb Research because it's been on our breakout list a couple of times. Lamb Research, very strong, but overbought. This does not negate more movement higher. But if you're trying to buy in now, this is not the optimal time, in my view, especially if you get overbought on the MFI. And if you do get overbought on the MFI and you own 100 shares of it, really good opportunity to sell spreads to sell a call to the upside and do a covered call, 120, 125 level, because you would be happy to allow that stock to be taken from you after a roughly 50%, 100% run from April. Drugs, dude. Drugs. Therapeutic drugs, dude. I like this chart. I like that you spotted this. I like the positive movement here. I like the break above the 20. I like the break above the 8. I like the break above the 50. I like buying at the 45, and I like selling at the 50 because this stock is volatile. 6.4% move today. I will be on top of this one in a little bit. Let me give you a couple others. A couple other little fellas. A couple little fellas today. Little fellas. Tesla's going to continue to break out, I guess. Jeez. Yeah, this might get out of hand actually. This could just now go parabolic. Yeah, I guess I'm going to get a little bit hit on that one short side trade I made. Okay. Tesla, very strong. That means all of these are strong. Norwegian, CCL, CCL to 34. AMAT, right there, 166 in the money, selling at the 170, selling at the 172, or straight up buying the stock, looking for this 8 to come back above that 20 and take this thing much higher, 172. And then from that point, this becomes a Gianni stock. And now we're talking in the 200s. Stock that had been beaten up, I would reassess KKR right now, 140. I might actually trade that today. And then in the small cap space, I would look at things like TrueCar. Yeah. This is a heavy, no, it's not a heavy short float, but this has something to it. I might just buy TrueCar. Stop, $2. TrueCar. Smooth momentum, very quiet. Something's coming. Maybe I move back to 350. TrueCar. America's car. All right. Summit Technology is a company. I don't know what any of that means, Matt. Anti-angiogenesis. That doesn't. I appreciate you doing the research, but that might as well be in Greek. Warner Brother Discovery is in merger to talk to Paramount. Skydance, let's just put them all together. Just one big, terrible thing. Just one big brother type of, oof, wow. Yikes. I mean, look, I'll be very honest with you. LASC is, first off, a market cap of $40 million. So volume is 3 million. This is a volume weighted average price stock. This is something you trade VWAP with because these moves on certain days when they break above VWAP, volume weighted average price, are comically high. So if you're buying this, you're buying it above the blue line and it can just break out the way that it has in previous moves. I don't know much about it, but I'm going back and looking at previous days. When was the last huge move on this stock? August 21st. And this is, oof, looks a little liquid. Let's go back to August 21st, though. So you wake up. Here's VWAP, 322, and it went to 435. So that's all you do with a company like this. Get your Bollinger Bands out, buy under volume weighted average price, and if it stays above VWAP, you hold it. That's it. Yeah, it would be a Kenny Glick stock. I'm looking for reversions. All right. Yeah. Light that on fire. 9:21. Don's coming up. He's got some music, everyone. If you haven't seen it, we're going to have a very important little message coming out today. If you're on the morning email list with me for next week, so I encourage you to check it out and sign up as well. For next Thursday, fill that void between what's going on between the Fed meeting and next Friday with triple witching. I hope you guys have a great day, and we will catch up today at 3 o'clock again. I will not be at the bar. I will be with special guest Amelia Baldwin coming back from Art Club to show us what she did with her time. Have a great day.